What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and still Super Bowl champs. What, we're like 3-4 days separated from Sunday's Super Bowl 59. Celebration on Broad Street, Eagles pounding Kansas City. I've been watching highlights of that game for so many repeated hours at this point since Sunday. I watched it a few times on Monday. Honestly, I watched it a few times on Sunday before I went to bed after I did the recap live stream. Watched it a few times on Monday, watched it a few times yesterday, and most likely going to be watching it a few times today. I'm not going to lie. Probably going to be rewatching those highlights for a while now, because that game was just so electric. That game was so fun, and it's never going to get old, especially when you blow out a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. You just made that entire team see ghosts, especially Patrick Mahomes. That man was running all over the place, being hunted down by the defensive front, being hunted down basically by every single person on that defense. He was never able to go anywhere. It was absolutely insane. Jalen Hurts' magnificence. I keep watching on repeat that bomb to Devontae Smith, and the call by Kevin Burkhardt too, just to put in the dagger. That was also a excellent call on the broadcast. So there was just so many fun things about that game, and like I said, I am just going to keep rewatching and rewatching and rewatching, because I think that's what most Eagles fans are going to do, because it's still not over it. Amazing stuff. But, the crux of what I want to get into today's show, and obviously I'm recording this in the early stages of the afternoon. This will be posted later on tonight. Also, I got a little bit of a break because Russ Joy didn't get to do his morning show because he lost his voice, so he most likely will be doing it later on today. So that gives me time, that gives me a little bit of a break to do my own little thing here and get something else out there for you guys. So, also, if my voice sounds a little weird, I apologize for that. I have no idea. I guess the allergies and the wear and tear from Sunday are just finally starting to bring their way over. So we're going to fight through it and everything like that. But, I guess these are the things that you're willing to take when you celebrate a Super Bowl victory. Willing to take it every single time. So, before we get into the rest of the crux of this episode, because I want to make this entire thing a big apology to Nick Sirianni, and we'll get onto that a little further later on, but welcome back to TTP Sports, everybody. If you are new to the channel, I definitely recommend that you do hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service with the YouTube algorithm. Also, we're getting a lot of new people from the reaction video that I posted a couple of days, so hello to all you fine folks there. It's doing very well with the numbers. So if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, drop a like, leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'd love to interact with you guys down there. Use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. It's a great deal. Don't pass it up. Sadly, there's no more football left to watch, so you're going to have to probably deal with Sixers and Flyers for a little bit until the Phillies get back up, and also, pitchers and catchers are reporting, so that's another conversation for another day. But great deal, don't pass it up. TTP Sports, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Also, leave a follow at TTP Sports on TikTok, Instagram for Reel Shorts, and all of that good stuff. So finally, getting into the topic that I wanted to get into for today's show, and that is going to be mainly one big, gigantic apology to Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, because he deserves it. He deserves it. He has completely transformed his entire career at this point, even though when you look at the stats, when you look at the numbers, he's been a very successful head coach in his first 4 full seasons in the National Football League. There's no lie in that. There's, basically all truth. His numbers are up there with some of the best in his first 4 seasons. And automatically, in my personal opinion, after today's Super Bowl win, well, not today's Super Bowl win, what the fuck am I talking about? That was Sunday. It's still lingering in the mind, and it's going to linger in the mind for a while. But after Sunday's Super Bowl win, going to 2 Super Bowls in a 3-year span. Most likely, I expect this Eagles team to continue to get the Super Bowls and continue to win Super Bowls because this team is not done yet. Nick Sirianni is probably already the greatest coach in Eagles history. Already surpassed Andy Reid, and I know that's probably going to be a very controversial opinion. Obviously surpassed Doug Peterson and all that stuff, and surpassed all Eagles coaches of years past as well. I feel like the numbers just say it for themselves, and it really just goes to the culture that they built up in that locker room. And obviously, for the past few years, there was a lot of criticism. There was a lot of doubts with Nick Sirianni, regardless of the numbers that he was putting up as a head coach with how successful they were. There were a lot of doubts. There were still a lot of very huge question marks. And, it was fair. It was fair to point out all of that stuff because there were so many weird things that were happening, and it just felt like the dots weren't connecting, that it didn't feel real, it didn't feel right. And it went back to, him being introduced as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, that first press conference. We all know how just a complete, how nervous that man was, how unprepared he was for that first press conference. So that probably rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. The way the season ended, there definitely wasn't anything weird. You get into the flower speech and all of that stuff, all the way that he talks in press conferences. A lot of people weren't buying it. A lot of people just were thinking that it didn't pass the smell test and everything like that. So, and still, you managed to find a way to, even though he handed off play calling in the first year to Shane Steichen, and then the Eagles found a way to get back above 500 to squeak away into that final wild card spot for the playoffs. Granted, you did get crushed by Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but still a very first, I would say, full successful season as a head coach, as a season, to get your first season underway, to find a way to come out from being so many games under 500, to find a way to make the playoffs and go on that run to get into that final playoff spot. You definitely consider that a successful year. Then you go into year 2, it just seemed like everything flowed so well. Jalen Hurts being an MVP candidate, and, just the way that the team was meshing, the way the defense was getting all those sacks, the way the head coach, Nick Sirianni, the coordinators were getting this team rolling and going every single week. There really weren't any doubts in the second year. You do end up losing in the Super Bowl. Obviously, there definitely were some question marks on the decision. Obviously, the punt return from the Kansas City Chiefs in that Super Bowl 57 instead of going for it on 4th down. So there definitely were a lot of questionable decisions there. But it really didn't start fully coming to terms until last year, until the 2023 season, until that 10-1 start, which led to a very, 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 very embarrassing collapse. So 2023 season, Shane Steichen goes to the Colts for a head coaching gig. Jonathan Gannon obviously was checked out at Super Bowl 57. He was getting hired by the Arizona Cardinals. So now you have 2 coordinators gone. You have to focus on hiring your new coordinators. So you promote Brian Johnson to the offensive coordinator role. You hire Sean Desai for the defensive coordinator role. And it started off pretty well, but it just felt like there was weird things going throughout that season to where, honestly, the way the Eagles were winning last year maybe kind of remind you of the way the Chiefs were winning this year. They were just finding ways to squeak out wins. The wins weren't sexy. The wins were very ugly, and they were just grinding by the skin of their teeth to get those wins. But we didn't think about it at the time because 10-1 record is a 10-1 record for a reason. We were just thinking to ourselves, obviously, that this Eagles team just knows how to win, and they find ways to win every single week. But then that finally came back to haunt them once that 49ers game hit here in South Philadelphia, where they just completely embarrassed your asses, and then the collapse ensued. And then, you move away Sean Desai, Matt Patricia takes over as the defensive coordinator. The offense was just completely terrible throughout the entire season, and all the reports that came out, almost at the end of the year, going into the offseason, basically the entire offseason, Tim McManus articles and all that stuff talking about how the offense really wasn't Brian Johnson's decisions and everything like that. It was really Nick Sirianni making the calls, and that's the reason why the offense looks so weird, looks so blah, looks so very bad, basically, at the end of that. So, so many criticisms, and especially with the way that just the relationship that it felt like with Nick Sirianni, with Jalen Hurts, especially after you fire Brian Johnson. There was a lot of, animosity going around in that Eagles locker room last year. There just was, especially when you tied to Jalen Hurts and, him signing the new big contract and the way that his attitude was, the way that he was acting. You got all the stuff from A.J. Brown last year. Talk about everything like that as well. Excuse me there. Like I said, my voice sounds very weird today. I have no idea why, but like I said, we're powering through it. So, all that stuff from the 2023 season, just a complete... It brought a lot of doubts into the minds of Eagles fans for Nick Sirianni. All the offseason stuff. Then we're getting into the 2024 season to where it just felt like they were trying to wrap things up with bubble wrap, where things just looked fake. The relationships when you see Nick Sirianni on a golf cart with Jalen Hurts, all the other stuff, it just didn't feel real. It didn't feel authentic and everything like that. Then when you start the way that you start this season, 2-2, especially coming off after the bye week, when you play the Cleveland Browns and you're yapping back and forth with Eagles fans after, barely squeaking it out against a very, 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 very bad Cleveland team. It just wasn't a good sign. It just didn't look right. And rightfully, I think a lot of Eagles fans were calling for Nick Sirianni's head, and I think everything at that point was rational. I think, especially me, there was a lot of question marks, because at that point of the season, starting off 2-2, with a lot of the things in those first 4 weeks looking very much similar to what it looked like last year, I don't blame anyone for doubting. I doubted myself. I think a lot of Eagles fans were right for, not fully buying in those first 4 weeks, especially coming out of the bye when you barely squeak it out against Cleveland, where, yeah, you do destroy a New York Giants team, but that New York Giants team was just absolutely terrible, so that was the expectation to beat them. Yeah, you had a nice record coming out of the bye. You found your way to get it to a 4-2 record, but still it didn't pass the smell test and everything like that. And then the winning started. Then the second half of Cincinnati started. And then you start rolling out these wins. The team looks more, together. The team looks more wired. The team, they're just rolling through every single week. Just looks like they're improving and improving and improving after every single win, after every single week, and especially when you go on the road to Los Angeles. Well, it's basically when you go through that stretch of Washington at home, Los Angeles Rams on the road, then you come back and play the Baltimore Ravens as well on the road. There's a lot of good stretches around there, and I think that's one of the most important stretches of the season, especially that Washington game, the LA Rams game on the road, especially when the Rams were getting healthier, and a lot of people were saying, oh, watch out for the Rams, they're getting healthier, Sean McVay and all that stuff, Matt Stafford, they're getting Puka Nacua back. Eagles completely destroyed them. Saquon Barkley, 300 rushing yards. Absolutely insane. And then you're going up against the Baltimore Ravens team that, number one rushing defense. It's going to be a tough task. Saquon Barkley still gets 100-plus rushing yards. The Eagles find a way to take down that team. Their defense absolutely just dominates Cooper DeJean with that big hit on Derrick Henry and all of that stuff. Great stuff. And that's when it finally clicked really into my mind, finally clicked into a lot of Eagles fans' mind, that this team was different, that this team was... There was something different about this team compared to last season. They probably have that it factor. They probably have that special gene. Because now all we know at this point since the bye week was winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. And really the only reason you lost the game was because Jalen Hurts got concussed in Washington. That was the only reason why you lost the game. Then you just kept on winning. Then you just kept on winning through the rest of the regular season, into the playoffs, beat Green Bay, beat the Rams in the snow, mollywop the Commanders in the NFC Championship game, and then embarrass the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, putting up the most points in a postseason run by any NFL team. Best defensive run, best everything a lot of the times with this Eagles team. And a lot of that goes to Nick Sirianni. It really does. Defensively, yeah, Vic Fangio, special things that he did with his defense, special things that he did with the talent surrounding him, and it really makes the Miami Dolphins look like absolute losers, which they are absolute losers for the way that, they just allowed Vic Fangio to walk. You see all their players celebrating after Vic Fangio left. Come on. Come on. You go from Miami, you build something special down here with this Eagles defense. You see all the way the Eagles defensive players love Vic Fangio. You hear what Nolan Smith said after winning Super Bowl 59. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Culture down there in Miami, definitely nowhere close to where it's built in Philadelphia. And culture is the big thing about Nick Sirianni. Culture is the biggest thing here that Nick Sirianni has built, that he has found a way to make this team one big gigantic family. And it all started with that bye week. It all started with the offensive line talking about how ways to make the offense flow better, focus on running the ball more, talks and discussions with Jalen Hurts on the same exact thing, how to make this offense look better, how to make this offense more efficient. We got to stop turning the ball over. We got to find a way to score more. We got to find a way to have sustained drives. A lot of that stuff happened through the bye week, and then we saw it being implemented week after week after week after week after week since the bye week, and that's what led to this Eagles team being an absolute dynamo just on every side of the ball, leading to winning a Super Bowl. And a lot of that has to do with Nick Sirianni. You could put a lot on Kellen Moore too. Sadly, now he's with New Orleans, and you got to focus on that entire situation. But that's another discussion for another day. And what Vic Fangio has done with his defense, he is not going anywhere. This man is going to be basically in Philadelphia, I would say, for the rest of his career at this point. That's probably where he wants to be. But Nick Sirianni, man. And a lot of that stuff, with this apology and everything like that, when you're going back to a couple of weeks ago, and I think this was before the Los Angeles Rams game, or this could have been after the Los Angeles Rams game, I can't remember, the divisional round, not during the regular season, where you see the article posted by Tim McManus on ESPN. It was a great article talking about all the different things and how close this Eagles locker room has become thanks to Nick Sirianni and the way that this team appreciates him. And you go back and read some of the things that he has been doing with some of the players, specifically with Jordan Mailata, the letters that he sent him, letters with Nakobe Dean. There was so many other Eagles players in that locker room that had letters sent to them by Nick Sirianni. And a lot of those players kept those letters and they brought them to every single game. I believe Nakobe Dean was the same thing. He brought the letters, every single week during the season, to keep him motivated and everything like that. Nick Sirianni is just the way that he has built his culture up. And, you had a lot of obstacles to go through this entire season as well, especially when you're going through that, even during that entire stretch of winning after the bye week, you still had a lot of concerns and question marks because of the way, oh my God, is there more drama with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? Then you get Brandon Graham going on WIP talking about the drama between there. And then, it all results in going against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they do find a way to shut down Saquon Barkley to an extent, but then the passing game does open up, and that really kind of silences all that talk surrounding the drama around Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, because we all knew that was in there deep down. But the way that they didn't let that distract them, the way that it kind of let them fuel the fire, I guess you can say, fueled the fire, fueled the passion, fuel the way that this team just kept going and going and going as the regular season winded down, as you get into the playoffs. I think that there's a lot of things that you have to put with Nick Sirianni and the way that he has built this culture up. Because like I keep saying, he has turned this entire franchise, basically, this entire locker room, into one gigantic family. And you see that as the post Super Bowl win, when you're seeing, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, as you see, the mic'd up highlights from NFL highlights and all that stuff coming out. I believe it's coming out today or something like that, but you see them going throughout Twitter, where you're seeing Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith saying that we're being back here, we're not done yet. We got plenty more to go. Like, they're excited about the moment, but right now they're even looking to winning more Super Bowls. AJ Brown posted on Twitter basically summarizing the same thing Jalen Hurts said on the Jimmy Fallon Allen show last night that he's still keeping his phone background, the, walking past all the red and gold and white confetti from Super Bowl 57 because he wants to keep himself humbled. This team is ready, locked in, and continuing to want to push that motor to winning more Super Bowls. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that this team's mentality has been set, with the way this team's just everything has been going. And I think a lot of that has to do with Nick Sirianni, with the way that he stresses the core values, the way that he expresses the connection with this team, how he wants to build the connections with his players, because he really is a players type of coach. He's not a hard ass type of coach. He's not going to, he will get into your face, not really saying anything like that, but he's a guy that wants to connect with his players. He wants to be personal with the players. He wants to get to know them, and that goes back to when he's sending letters to players like Jordan Mailata and Nakobe Dean and a lot of the other players in the Eagles locker room that you could check out in that Tim McManus article on ESPN. The way that he has just built his locker room together, it's just something special. And the way that this team is now wired to continue to go out there next season and seasons after that, because they still think they can go out there and win, and I firmly believe, and a lot of Eagles fans believe, that they can still continue to go out there and win, because a lot of the players in the core of this team is still very young. They're in the midst of their primes. Even some of the people that were around even during the Super Bowl 52 time, Lane Johnson, all that stuff, they're still good and ready to go. But the core pieces of this Eagles squad, they're ready to go. This team can go out there, win more Super Bowls. They can create a dynasty of their own. That's how good they can be. And I think a lot of that credit has to go towards Nick Sirianni. And we'll talk about the players and all that stuff in future episodes. But I think Nick Sirianni, first and foremost, deserves a lot of apologies from the city of Philadelphia, just because of how he was able to completely transform, I would say, his legacy at this rate. Because it went from last season to that other collapse, to wanting him kicked out of Philadelphia, to a lot of the question marks at the beginning of the year, to him going back and forth with Eagles fans after barely beating the terrible Cleveland Browns team, and just finding a way to transform this entire team into what it is after winning Super Bowl Sunday. Getting to the Super Bowl, completely going through the playoffs, dominating the NFC Championship game, dominating the Super Bowl. And if people want to talk about CEO, head coaches, and all that stuff, him being stripped of his play calling ability, him being stripped of this and that, he managed to go out there. He listened to his offensive line. He listened to Jalen Hurts on ways to make this offense flow even better. And that also attests to a lot of the person that Nick Sirianni is, because most head coaches in this league, when players go up to them and talking about, ways to change the offense, this is what we should do, I think this is the way this offense would flow a lot better, a lot of coaches would be hard asses and stick to their guts and stick to what they think works right. And yeah, maybe they'll listen to the players, but they really won't adapt anything of what the players are saying. They'll just it's my way or the highway at this point. And Nick Sirianni, he stayed humble. He listened to his team. He took the criticism. He looked for ways to improve this team. And that's the way that he connects with this locker room. That's the way that he connects with these players. And that's what makes him so special. And that's one of the reasons why his legacy has completely changed here in the city of Philadelphia, to where at this point, if this Eagles team continues to be what I believe they can be, what a lot of the people in Philadelphia believes they can be for the future at this point, because this roster is still built to win. Howie Roseman's definitely not done yet, and he has done so many great things since losing Super Bowl 57, even though a lot of things were questionable last year. The way that he's found a way to get this, and it's very hard to get back to a Super Bowl especially after losing it. So the way that Howie Roseman found a way to get the talent still here on this team to be able to go back and compete for a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl, that's a lot of credit in itself. And we know how much of a wizard Howie Roseman is, and he's going to continue to be a wizard. the way that this team is built for years at this point and for years to come, they're going to win a lot more Super Bowls. They're going to get to a lot more Super Bowls. It's going to be a very special time to be an Eagles fan for this Eagles franchise, because it's only going up from here at this point. Because really, do you see any other team in the NFC getting onto the level of the Philadelphia Eagles? Because at this point, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I feel like there's no debate in that entire thing, in my personal opinion. Now, do the Lions still match up with them? Yeah, if they do get healthy, we'll see where that goes. It's also funny when you hear Dak Prescott be absolutely delusional, talking about, oh, we matched up well with the Eagles before. Oh, we found a way to play up to the Eagles. We found a way to beat them, blah, 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 blah. If we played against the Eagles, we would beat them, blah, 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 blah. It sounds just as delusional as his goddamn owner, Jerry Jones. It's absolutely hilarious. My God, it is funny to watch that. But the way that this team is built for the future, for now and for the future, it's going to be a special time here in Philadelphia. And Nick Sirianni has already changed his legacy after this season, after winning this Super Bowl, and he has a chance to continue building that legacy here in the city of Philadelphia to basically be the best coach in Eagles history. That's what it is. And right now, he's already on that path to be the best coach in Eagles history. And it's funny, too, with all the drama that he has gone through. The stats show for themselves of how successful he has been in his short tenure as a head coach. But like I said, there were so many question marks with the way that he was, the way that he acted. But now that we figure out who the person Nick Sirianni, and we know who the person Nick Sirianni was, but we really saw that fleshed out a lot this season with the way that the team surrounded him, with the way that the team bonded with him and everything like that. That's truly Nick Sirianni, and the way that he has built this team to be one gigantic family. And you continue to go out there every single season and dominate. You continue to go out there and get double-digit wins every single year. You continue to make the playoffs. You're always in a position to get a number 1 or number 2 seed in the NFC, and you're always in a position to get to an NFC championship game, to get to a Super Bowl, and possibly win more Super Bowls. You're already cementing yourself as one of the best coaches in Eagles history. It's basically it. And that's a huge, huge compliment to Nick Sirianni, because he deserves so many apologies, because a lot of Eagles fans, including myself, doubted him. But now we know. Now we understand. We've seen it right in front of our faces with the way this Eagles team surrounded him and the way that he surrounded his teammates. Well, his players. The way that they came together, the way that they just go out there and dominate every single week. Something special. Nick Sirianni has built something special here. And it's going to continue to be special year in and year out for a very, very long time. And I cannot wait for all of that. It's going to be something amazing. It definitely is. So, before we wrap this thing up, we do have a voicemail here on the Anytime Hotline. You can leave those at 215-839-9885. Your thoughts and opinions here. We'll definitely have more pods as the week goes along as well. I definitely do have some other thoughts and opinions, going throughout the week, talking about this Eagles team. We'll also have some. I do plan on getting some footage during the parade on Friday, so that'll be very fun as well for you guys to see. So we'll move on. We'll move forward. But let's get to this call here from Sean, and then we'll wrap it up.
I'll use the same phrase for Nick Sirianni that people are using for Jalen Hurts. Put some respect on his name. I mean, the guy's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's been to 2, and if he wins one more, he's probably getting a gold jacket and going to Canton in the Hall of Fame. I mean, the guy, yeah, he's a goofball. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. Maybe to a degree, he's still a cheerleader without the pom-poms. But, I think there's a big disconnect between what the media reports and to what goes on behind closed doors. He definitely has the affection and the attention of those players. I don't think Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown dump Gatorade on a guy that they don't like. I saw Landon Dickerson in the postgame during the euphoria saying, hey, the guy wins, he's our coach, I'd run through a wall for him, and the hell with what the national media says. I mean, again, it's a lot like Jalen Hurts. He may not have the look of the coach that you want. He may not be the best at the podium during post-game press conferences. All I know is the guy wins. And as long as you keep winning, as long as you keep holding up Lombardi trophies at the end of the year, he may be a dork according to Nick Wright, but he's our dork. So, you know what? Hey, congratulations to him. Just like I said about Jalen Hurts, I'm glad for the man. Vindication that he wins a ring, a Super Bowl trophy. He took a lot of heat, a lot of shit from Eagles fans, and now he gets to turn around and shove it back in their face. Good for you, Coach Sirianni.
I think that's perfectly said. That is perfectly said by Sean there. Put some respect on his name. That's basically it. Put so much respect on the name Nick Sirianni. Great stuff. Great stuff. So that'll do it for today, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in as always. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Your thoughts on Nick Sirianni. Have they always stayed the same? Have you always believed in Nick? Or were you one of the people that became doubters of Nick, wanted him fired and everything like that? And during this entire run, you completely changed your mind. You completely changed your mentality on Nick, and you love Nick now. So I want to hear those thoughts and opinions down below. Don't forget to drop a like as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. Also use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Also leave a follow at TTPSports on TikTok, Instagram for all that good stuff. So appreciate you guys for tuning in to today/tonight when this video is posted. And we'll have more as the week goes along. Thanks guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time.